Alive and Well STL is a presentation of the St. Louis Regional Health Commission and RareGem Productions to build a healthier St. Louis. Power up with the positive. Learn more at OneRareGem.com. That's OneRaregem.com.
Support for Alive and Well STL comes from Beyond Housing, helps entire communities become better places to live. Learn more at beyondhousing.org.
The Regional Health Commission works in partnership with regional health sector advocates and stakeholders to improve healthcare access, reduce health disparities, and improve health outcomes for the uninsured and the underinsured in St. Louis City and County.
Alive and Well STL with Bethany Johnson-Javois, CEO of the St. Louis Integrated Health Network.
As we talk and think about what it means for our community to be alive and well, I am excited to be speaking with experts in helping support individuals and communities in mental wellness.
All sorts of the arts have always been something that we have gravitated towards as a means for not only survival, but also education. So it's not really a new thing to introduce this idea of using the arts to educate about mental health awareness.
We all have some kind of artistic ability in us, if it's through spoken word, if it's through that song we sing in the shower, nobody hears us singing. You know, we all have that ability to use art in a way. We need to just pull it out of us.
We'll be right back.
So when I think of an alive and well community, I think of one that is filled with not only science, but also art. So it's a pleasure to have the discussion today about how we're merging both of those worlds together for a healthier community.
You know, alive and well to me, with regards to around mental health, is that a person feels that there is hope and that recovery is possible. To suffer or to have that lived experience with mental illness and just to be told hope is possible and that I can recover, that makes one feel alive and that wellness is possible.
Alive and Well STL.
Hello and thank you for joining us today. I am Bethany Johnson-Javois, CEO of the St. Louis Integrated Health Network and host of Alive and Well STL, sponsored by the St. Louis Regional Health Commission. Today we are joined in the studio by Andrea Purnell, Director of Communications and the Arts at the Missouri Institute of Mental Health, and Jermine Alberty, Mental Health First Aid Training Director. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
As we talk and think about what it means for our community to be alive and well, I am excited to be speaking with the two of you today who are experts in helping support individuals and communities in mental wellness. So thank you again for joining. Andrea and Jermine, please, as your introduction, create your own vision for us of what it means to you to be alive and well.
Sure. Great. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having us on the show. First, I'd like to start by saying Happy Mental Health Awareness Week. This week is dedicated to being more mentally aware, and we're here to do just that and talk about it using the arts. As you mentioned, I am the Communication Artistic Director with UMSL's Missouri Institute of Mental Health, and our mission is to improve lives through the promotion of mental health. So we do this by transforming outcomes with research and program evaluation, community outreach, and professional training. I also have the pleasure of being the liaison for the University of Missouri St. Louis and spreading this message to the community using the arts. So when I think of an alive and well community, I think of one that is filled with not only science, but also art. So it's a pleasure to have the discussion today about how we're merging both of those worlds together for a healthier community.
Thank you.
Right. And, you know, alive and well to me, with regards to around mental health, is that a person feels that there is hope and that recovery is possible. To suffer or to have that lived experience with mental illness and just to be told hope is possible and that I can recover, that makes one feel alive and that wellness is possible.
Mm-hmm. Si se puede. That's right. So speaking of spreading the message through art, my first question is for Andrea. How do you define art? I know I had at one point a very simplistic perspective that art was canvas, paint, and paper. Art is a much broader definition of that. So what's all encompassed in that?
Sure. That's a great question. I think even the word artist is one that we can address. It's a brave title to say I am an artist. I think we are all artists. It lives in every single last one of us. But to wear this as a badge of honor, not everyone is as comfortable doing. But I think in this way that we're trying to improve wellness as I mentioned, using the arts, everyone kind of picking up this badge and figuring out where the artist lies within them is important. Because it doesn't mean that you've sold 1 million paintings or you've been on Broadway to say that you are an artist. And I do think that we can use wellness and our own artistic ability to see things differently. That's really what this is all about. Using the art for wellness is just a different lens to look at an issue, in this particular case, mental health challenges, and to have more empathy. And oftentimes the arts brings that empathy for those that have not experienced it personally.
Kind of think, too, that art is a mechanism by which I feel like my spirit can communicate bigger and better than words can. So I never thought that everyone could be an artist. I'm going to have to tap into what that means, that there's a little piece of art somewhere, artist in me. So what are you thinking, Jermine?
I mean, we all were artists from preschool to kindergarten. We were asked to draw that little picture, that little house, the 2 stick figures, the family, all those things like that. And as we become older, we kind of create our own kind of boundaries and our own boxes, so forth. And so I think that we all have some kind of artistic ability in us, if it's through spoken word, if it's through that song we sing in the shower, nobody hears us singing. We all have that ability to use art in a way. And I think that, we need to just pull it out of us.
So to both of you, what do you see as the relationship between art and wellness, and specifically mental wellness?
So in Mental Health First Aid, one of the things that we encourage folks to do, and Mental Health First Aid is a public education program that's designed to teach folks to recognize signs and symptoms, as well as to find out what treatments are available in regards to mental health challenges. So one of the steps in what we call the action plan is encourage self-help. And sometimes the arts is the way people can find that self-help through journaling, through art, drawing, through different ways to express that traumatic experience they may have had. So I think arts can be a really fantastic way for one to begin to find that recovery. It's self-help.
What do you think?
Well, for me, my background in even merging the two worlds together, it was totally on a mission. It really took me by surprise. I started this work with Provident Counseling and working with a group of young, primarily African-American teenagers that felt like their voice was not being heard. Most of them had dropped out of high school, and this was a program to re-engage them back into school. And as I was in there teaching this work readiness training, these students were not prepared to receive this information because they had so much inside of them that they wanted to get out. So we immediately went to using the arts as a vehicle to give these young people voice. It has not only worked with our youth, I've also had a chance to provide this healing in the incarcerated community. So it's definitely something that can have a effect across many target audiences, but I truly see it as something that gives voice to oftentimes a community that does not feel as if they are heard.
What proof, if you will, exists about the power of the medium of art, the power of the vehicle of mental health first aid?
I can take that in many ways with regards to proof. Sitting in a classroom and people start disclosing that their loved one died by suicide. And you can see the affirmation that they receive in the room from others who have just learned that, people who die by suicide often, it's not by choice. It is an illness that has driven into that hopelessness, into that despair. And so when you can have people in the room kind of share those stories with one another and find healing in that room, to me, it's not a statistic or a number I need to say that it works. It is that live healing that takes place in the room with those stories that have been told. But we do know that when people truly understand and stigma is reduced around mental health, that people start seeking the help they need. And in seeking that help, they begin to get on that path of recovery, which is different for all people. So I think the proof kind of happens right there on the spot. And when we've done follow-up surveys with people, we've heard things like, I feel now comfortable enough to address somebody who may be experiencing auditory hallucinations, or I feel comfortable now engaging somebody having a panic attack. And so I think that becomes that proof. Although anecdotal, I think the numbers in the future will tell that we're making an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. The proof is definitely in the pudding, as they say. In the specific style of mental health and the arts awareness that I have done, we do pre and post evaluation, which is very important. But it's really interesting because a lot of the work focuses on stigma. Stigma is still very alive and well in the mental health community. And so because of this, it has been a really interesting way to look at even the audience and see how they have received a message differently. Most specifically, I can talk about a collaboration with Dr. Veda Thompson, and we were taking a look at mental illness, specifically in the African American community. And in a performance, it's always data and education driven. So not only did you see different theatrical vignettes, you also saw Veda coming out explaining the mental health challenges that the characters were experiencing. So to have people after that performance come up and immediately say, "This was me. You weren't pointing at me, but I felt myself on that stage." Crying, even expressing their mental health challenges personally, and then saying, I need to be connected to care because of what I've seen today. So some of those don't necessarily come out in evaluation, but you can immediately see the impact that the arts has had on an audience member. And I've seen this experienced in many, many different settings in many different ways. So yes, evaluation is important, but some of it, some people don't fill out the evaluation, and how do you account for their healing?
Mm-hmm. And it's the combining of the two worlds together, where the proof really is in the spirit. How do you measure a spirit healing? It's a tough one, but we are attempting to do that. So just to step back, and this is for you, Jermine, to think about mental health first aid. We know about first aid, CPR training, but for the audience that's not familiar with the word mental health first aid, is it like CPR for the mind? Like, how do you talk about that? What is the difference between the two, or what do we need to know about mental health first aid?
Well, I think the key thing we have to do is stop disassociating the brain with other organs in the body. So when we talk about liver, and kidneys and hearts and diseases in those areas there, we talk about those things willingly and without shame. But when we talk about brain diseases like depression and anxiety disorders and substance use disorders and dementia and Alzheimer's, there seems to be this shame that comes about. And so I think that what mental health first aid is, it is to help offer to a person who is experiencing a mental health challenge or in a mental health crisis. I think the key word there is help, because often people just don't know how to help. And so I think by going through this 8-hour class, learning and understanding what these different illnesses are, and then learning how to help somebody, that's the power of mental health first aid. Is how do I intervene? How do I help? How do I connect with people? And so that's it in its most simplistic terms. That's what mental health first aid is. It's promoting recovery, it's promoting hope, and it's reducing, and I hope and pray one day, eliminating stigma in this area.
Is this a tool or support mechanism that could be advantageous to faith leaders who are struggling with how to address this in their local congregations?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the surveys that I read that was most troubling to me some time ago by Baylor, that talked about when individuals approached their clergy about mental illness within themselves or their families, they were told that it wasn't real, that they just needed to pray more, or that it was something that was a defect of themselves. And as a clergy member myself, that's troubling, because if someone comes to us about cancer or diabetes or hypertension, then we're willing to even say, go get a screening or take your medication or stuff like that. But when it came down to the mind, they were told that somehow it was a weakness or demonic possession or some kind of thing like that, that to me, disassociates a person from themselves. And so I think that as clergy going through training programs like mental health first aid and other mental health literacy programs, it will give them another tool to use to serve their people. And I often tell them, in mental health first aid, we're not trying to take away your dogma, your doctrine, what you believe, but provide you another tool in your toolkit to help those you serve. So I think it can most definitely be really effective for clergy.
Thank you for that. So, Andrea, you talked earlier about the need to spread the message. What is the message that you want people to pick up on today and spread it in their communities and in their homes, and starting with themselves?
Well, I would say that the biggest message that I would like to spread today is that we need to think differently about mental wellness and figuring out what that means for you is most important. 1 in every 4 will deal with a mental health challenge in their lifetime. Knowing this fact, it is hard to remove yourself from this community. If not you, then your mother, your sister, your brother, someone is affected. So beginning to see people as people, not as their challenge, is extremely important. Learning how to communicate about mental health challenges, speaking in person-first language, not saying committed suicide but died by suicide. All of these are things that the community needs to learn in order to become a more trauma-informed community. And I think even as it relates to clergy, particularly in the African-American community, dance, music, all sorts of the arts have always been something that we have gravitated towards as a means for not only survival, but also education. So it's not really a new thing to introduce this idea of using the arts to educate about mental health awareness, even in clergy. So I think, again, it just puts a different lens on it when you look at it using the arts. And I think if more people were to adopt this, how about the artist community locally take the mental health first aid class and then use your art to now describe these mental health challenges and see how effective that may be for the community at large to see it through your lens. I think that perhaps can definitely make a big difference.
The arts community here in St. Louis has really convened and gathered around social justice. Can you talk a little bit about those type of efforts that are helping to be proactive in healing us in that way?
Definitely. Yes, you're right. They have rallied. They are a part of the healing process. I know a lot of them personally, and a lot of us are graduates of what's called the Community Arts Training Program, which is through the Regional Arts Commission, headed by Roseanne Wise. This is a 18-year-old program that has been teaching community building and the arts for a long time. And so because we have this knowledge, we know how to enter and exit community. We know how to be effective. The beautiful demonstration that happened at the symphony, a lot of them were community arts trained professionals. So I think that more of that needs to happen. Protest is important. I read articles about symphony goers that evening that came out the very next day to Ferguson to be a part of the mission surrounding the change because of how they were affected by that symphony protest. So that is hitting them where it hurts. And what I mean by that is not physically where it hurts, but you touched some heartstrings. There was some emotion that was attached. And it takes an artist to do that oftentimes. So it really shows the power of the arts in that very event. In such a critical time in our community, arts can be a part of what heals the city and makes us all whole again.
So in closing, to both of you, what are specific ways, if I want to awaken that innate power, and this is my belief system, that we are created by God with an innate power to create, as he was creative and created, we have that same capability within us. Sometimes it needs to be awakened. And in other ways, we have the innate ability to heal more than medicine can ever do. So if I'm a person listening and I think I want to awaken that power and that agency within me, what are specific ways that I can access mental health first aid training, or think of myself as an artist? How do I awaken that?
So very, very quickly, I would say that the greatest way to open that up is to learn. And learning could be that mechanism of mental health first aid. And collaborate and partner with each others to come together, learn from one another. And so mental health first aid, there's websites, of course, you can go to learn more about that. One site is www.mentalhealthfirstaidmissouri.org. Folks can go there and learn more about Mental Health First Aid Missouri and reach out to us at the Missouri Institute for Mental Health at www.mimh.edu. You can find information there. But I think learning is key. If folks just learn, we can collaborate together and do great things together.
Very good point. Our new executive director, Dr. Rob Paul, said a quote that I just found fascinating. He said that science is art, just in a different form. And I think that if not only the research community as well as the arts community could realize the power and the strength that lies within both of them, that's most important. It's not just artists teaching the community. The community is also teaching artists. That's a crucial point. We can't just go out there and begin to profess that we can change the world without learning and really tapping into what the world needs changed. So Jermine is right. Education is key and crucial on both sides, not just the community, but also for the artist that is trying to affect change in the community. So it's a two-way street. And I think respecting both sides is crucially important in order to fully affect change.
So Andrea and Jermine, thank you both for joining us today and for all the great work that both of you do in the St. Louis community. As we wrap up here, is there anything else that you want to add before we close the show?
Yes, I would love to add. Jermine and I are actually collaborating now on a new project, again, bringing together mental health and the arts for case managers. And the project is called Managing the Case. So this is just one of the many projects that we have. So if you would like to collaborate, if you would like to see presentations for your organization, if you want to educate and figure out a different way to spread a message, we ask that you please contact us. I'll even leave a phone number if that's okay. We can be reached at the Missouri Institute of Mental Health at 314-516-8404. Again, that's 314-516-8404, or via the web at www.mimh.edu. Again, that's www.mimh.edu. And we are a proud department of the University of Missouri St. Louis. So if you also need further connections on campus, please reach out to us as well. We're happy to help.
I was just saying in conclusion that, together we can do much. And so I think it's important for us to collaborate together with MIMH, with UMSL, with all those partners to make things happen. So I think if we come together, we can get more done together than we ever can apart.
Trauma-informed community means thinking differently about your community. So we're up for the challenge, and MIMH is dedicated to moving forward with creating a more trauma-informed community in our area. So thank you again for having us here today. This is an important message that you're spreading, and we're just glad to be a part.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Alive and Well STL. We look forward to speaking with you again next week. For more information about today's program and to become involved in Alive and Well STL, don't forget to download the smartphone application Bonfire, BONFYRE, and search for Alive and Well, or visit us online at aliveandwellstl.com. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
You are invited to join the conversation. If you, your family, or your organization is interested in talking about how we better the well-being of the region, sign up for more information, join the conversation, log on to aliveandwellstl.com, and let's build a plan on how we can work together and improve our overall health and become alive and well.
We are grateful for your gift of time to this conversation. We encourage you to stay involved and get involved. Visit aliveandwellstl.com to learn more.
Alive and Well STL, the Regional Health Commission with Chief Executive Officer Robert Friend Jr., committed to providing a detailed review of change over the past decade and 14 leading health indicators for the city and county of St. Louis. The first decade review of health status report, an update to building a healthier St. Louis. Discover the narrative, the data, and celebrate the progress already made to improve healthcare access and reduce health disparities in our region. Learn more at STLRHC.org. Alive and Well STL is another positive production of RareGem Productions. Thanks for listening.